I'm so excited about this, I can barely contain myself, because this week is the beginning of the potato in a bucket competition. So the potato in a bucket competition is run by the local horticultural society. So here's my potato, seed potato, and here is my bucket. So what on earth is so interesting about that, you're probably thinking, and with good reason. Well, I guess the interesting thing is the only thing you can control here is what you're putting into the bucket, what kind of soil you're putting in, what type of compost, any amendments, that kind of thing. And so also at the end of the competition, which is really cool, you have to explain how you got so many potatoes. So if you're the winner and you had a huge bucket with loads of potatoes, then you have to explain what you did to get so many potatoes. And I guess it's all the same whether you're growing potatoes or any other vegetable. It's the same game, I guess, you know, just making sure that the plants have as much nutrition as they can, and the better nutrition they get, the more plants that you get, at least in theory. Usually when I make compost, I don't really worry too much about the sort of mixture of greens and browns. I just throw everything into a big bin and I leave it. But this time I was a bit more methodical, and as a result, I think this is, yeah, maybe a little better than normal, I think. It's really light, super kind of like light and fluffy. It's been raining a lot and it's still, I mean, it's just not soggy. It doesn't hold water in the same way that like soil does. It's just, I think this is really, really nutritious. I think so. It should give me a good start in the competition. But I think this is in the local town. There's about 20 odd people going into this, and they're all local growers. They're all really, really experienced. They're really good. So I think I need to add more to it. So I've been thinking about what to add. Plants need all sorts of nutrients and minerals in order to grow, but the three that everyone always thinks about is NPK, nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. So my first thought was, well, potassium, potash, plenty of ash in there. But although that does have plenty of potassium, the problem is it's heavily alkaline and it's no good at all for potatoes. Bit of a shame, because I get loads of this. So I'm just going to keep putting this on the compost and let that kind of mix in, but I'm not using it on the potatoes. This was my second thought, coffee. Mainly just because I can access tons of this stuff from the local shops. What everyone says about coffee is that it's acidic. It's amazing how many people say that. I've been told so many times. People say things like, oh, you can put it on blueberries because they like the acid, and you can't put it here, and I always just compost it. But I've done a bit of research, and the funny thing is, it's not acidic. Well, at least not once it's brewed. So once it's brewed, it's at about between 6.5 and 6.8 pH, which is practically neutral. So yeah, the acidity wouldn't be a problem. There is some nitrogen in it, but it's not clear to me how or if the potatoes will be able to access that nitrogen. I think once it's been composted, it's all good, but I'm not sure that that's going to do all that much good. I mean, I've read kind of conflicting reports on this, so at this stage I'm going to leave it out. But I'd be interested, actually, if anyone's had good experiences growing directly into coffee rather than composting it first. I'd be interested. But for now, it's just too confusing, so I'm going to leave that one out. So I did a bit of research and found out that both chicken manure and horse manure are really good for growing things in. I mean, obviously you wouldn't put in fresh manure because there's pathogens and stuff, but this horse manure is really old, several years old, and it doesn't smell at all. It doesn't even look like manure now. I mean, I don't know if you can quite see from there, but it's it's a bit lighter, a bit fluffier. It doesn't look anything like, I mean, I recently put a load of horse manure onto the compost, and that is entirely different. So I can guarantee you just by looking at this that this is very old. and very well broken down. So this should be good. I think that should be pretty good to grow in, but just in case, these are the final weapons in the arsenal here. So seaweed, watered down there. This is wormweed, and this is comfrey tea. Comfrey's full of nitrogen. So these I'm not going to put on there now. I'll wait until I see some leaves and the plant's actually growing and needs maybe a few more nutrients if it needs them, and I'll just add a little bit of these just to bring it along. So the next stage is to plant this thing. Normally when I plant potatoes, I just dig a hole and put them in, and that's it. The more sort of traditional way of doing it, I guess, is where you cut furrows, so a kind of trench. The potatoes go into that, and then you mound soil on top of them, and you keep mounding the soil on in case any of them see the daylight. The reason you do that is, unbelievably, if these see daylight, they start photosynthesizing. I guess they're sort of acting in the same way a leaf would, and so they go green. The chlorophyll isn't the problem, but there's something else within that. When that's happening, there's something else that happens within the potato which makes it poisonous. So you don't want to do that. But I've had a read, and I can't see that there's a huge benefit in terms of growing more potatoes, and that's what this competition is all about, is to grow the most potatoes. So I had thought of like, oh, do I try and have a little trench and just gradually pile the soil on? But from what I've read, that doesn't mean that you get more potatoes. It's just a way of protecting them from the sun. So I think I'm just going to bury this, and I'll make sure I've got sort of, you know, an inch or two above it. But that's it. Right, we've got our potato planted. We've got our fertilizers ready to go. And next we wait for 70 days. This is a rocket, which is a first early, so it's pretty quick growing. And then after 70 days, we go to the horticultural club, where Jeff, who's the president, will get everyone's potatoes, empty them all out, weigh them, and see who's got the most. Jeff's won it in previous years, and I think he's the man to beat, but I'm hoping that my little concoction here will do all right. But surely there's a good enough reason to check back in 70 days and find out.